Hello, and on behalf of the Mindalia team, welcome. Today, Jannú Dakides is joining us to tell us about your reality is a projection of your mind. Let's talk a bit about her before starting with this conference. Jannú is a holistic coach, a yoga and meditation teacher, and a digital marketing specialist. So let's not delay this any further and let's say welcome to Jannú Dakides. Hello, Jannú. How are you? Thank you very much for being here.
It's a pleasure, guys. I wasn't expecting your call, and when you gave me the chance of joining you, I was feeling head above clouds. I'm in cloud nine, really. I can't wait to share with you tonight all of the amazing concepts that I have just here ready to spit out my mouth.
I'm sure this conference is going to be very, very interesting, Jannú. So I don't want to spend your time. Whenever you want, you can start, and I'll see you later.
Thank you very much. So first of all, guys, thank you for sharing the next 20 minutes with me. I have an amazing topic on top of the table tonight with you. And it's, as I've been introduced before, your reality is a projection of your mind. So if you stay with me and open your mind, you're going to hopefully see your reality with different eyes after we cover some topics. So actually, the concepts that we're going to tackle tonight are going to feel a little bit abstract in the beginning. But as I said, if you stay with me and you pay close attention, and if you have any questions, of course, I will answer them for you at the end. You're going to hopefully see your reality from a different perspective. I believe that if you're here listening to me tonight, you're interested in personal development, and you have for sure listened before what the ego is. You know that when we come to this world, we come as beings that haven't been biased. This means that we come as perfect, pure beings, and throughout the education that we receive, or throughout culture, our families, education, we start undergoing a programming that sets us up to face the world in a way that is definitely not neutral. One thing for sure is that reality is neutral, but the way we see reality is what is actually biased. And this is what we're going to speak here tonight. The thing is that, for example, if you go to a museum and you see a piece of art, if you see a painting, probably the perception that you have of that painting is not going to be the same perception as the one that someone else that has been raised with a different cultural background, age group, gender, race, whatever, is going to have of that piece of art. And why does this happen? This happens because of the following: your perception. So now we're going to start going through a little bit of theory so that you have a solid base of the topics that we're going to speak about towards the end of this talk. Most of you may have heard already about Abraham Maslow. This guy actually is a genius when it comes to the ego and the perception of reality. He spoke about two very important topics: the terms of being cognition and the term of being perception. Being perception is the ability to look at things holistically. Holistically means in the pure essence, as a whole, not by parts, not as we would like to interpret them, but as a whole. So the ability to look at things holistically as they actually are without judgment or classifying them. The thing is that whenever we watch an object or we deal with another person in business, it doesn't matter which aspect of life, we are not seeing things as they actually are. We are seeing things through the lens of our mind and through the programming, as I said, that we have undergone. Subconsciously, we have been programmed and we don't realize this. Like we are running in autopilot, which means that actually everything that we perceive as real is not. What we are perceiving as real is what our mind believes is real. But as I said, reality is neutral. So what we take for granted actually is not like this. So the ability to perceive an object itself, and not by the way it is for you, the same way as we see others, the way we are, not the way they are, is a game changer when you bring this to your awareness. This means that whenever you meet a new person and you want to start, let's say, a relationship, like a romantic relationship with this person, chances are that you are projecting the idea that you have in your mind of how you would like this person to be, rather how this person actually is. And when you bring awareness, as I said, to this concept, you're going to start having relationships in a way that is much more accurate to reality than the one you have been having up until now. This means that if you have been raised to desire a partner that has certain characteristics, chances are that the moment that you meet someone, you're going to start projecting on this person this programming that you have undergone. That's why it's really important, if you decide to start dating someone, to take your time to really get to know this person. That's when the famous red flags appear, because this person may have red flags or things that you actually wouldn't desire in a partner, but because you rush into this relationship projecting the things you would like this person to have rather than what this person actually is, it's when things turn out in an undesired way. So it's our desires, our fears, and our emotions, what we project onto the objects. And when I say that we project onto an object, this can be, for example, a mug, this can be a piece of art, this can be living beings, as I said, relationships, this can be onto business, this can also be institutions. We project into institutions like the church, like the government. So why do you think that a certain person is going to support one football team and another person is going to support another one? A team is just a team neutrally. Actually, a team doesn't even exist. We also make up labels. It's like a table. What is a table? In reality, a table is just a piece of board with some legs. But we design the concept. We come up with the concept and the label of this is a table. But that's not reality. Again, that's how you interpret what you have in front of you. So if you are supporting a football team, actually you are supporting your projection in your mind of what this football team means, the values that they stand for. What happens with a political group? Exactly the same. So as we perceive objects is really, really important. Why? Because this dictates how we are going to react. Let's say that we call a person a foreigner. The moment we say this person is a foreigner and we label the person as this, we are classifying this human being and we are separating ourselves from him or her. We are not seeing this person as a human being anymore, but we're seeing the person through the label. We can only perceive holistically the person when our ego doesn't need anything from the person itself. Why do we label? Why do we classify? Because our ego has a programming and has projections onto the object we have in front. So if this seems a little bit abstract at this point, I would like to refresh your mind about what the ego is. When we are born, as I said, we are born in our highest self. We haven't been polluted by any information that comes from the outside. We are pure, just as we are born into this world. But then, as culture appears, the family, the education, it's when the ego is shaped. So I really like the quote that says that you are not your thoughts, because when we are running in autopilot and a thought comes to our mind, we identify ourselves with this thought and automatically we believe that this is the reality. And many people transit this world without knowing that you can actually question your thoughts. You can actually step back, sit into the driver's seat and decide whether you want to believe the thought that just crossed your mind or if you don't want to. Because the moment the thought comes into your mind, and that's the ego speaking, and you identify yourself with this thought, you're going to believe that that's reality, when that has absolutely nothing to do with reality. You're allowed to question what is coming to your mind and asking yourself, is this accurate or is this a projection? So the being cognition, as I was saying, is the ability to avoid the projection, not adding any stuff into that reality. And depending on what our ego needs in life, that's how we're going to interpret reality. Going back to the example of relationships, if our ego desires, let's say, I don't know, a partner which is really protective, we're going to start projecting onto this partner those desires that our ego has, not giving ourselves the chance of actually getting to know this person and questioning ourselves, is this person is how he is, or how we have made up in our mind that this person is. So at this point, it's important to mention that our mind filters what is relevant for it. When you go out to the street every morning, your mind is bombarded with so much information: the weather, the noise, traffic, the person that stops by and waves hello at you. You're filtering too much information. So your mind is designed to only focus and filter on what is relevant for its survival. Again, we are not seeing reality as it really is. We are seeing reality as our mind is filtering it to be in order to guarantee our survival. For example, if you wish to get pregnant and you go out to the street, probably you're going to notice so many women pregnant. Whereas if you're planning to buy a new car, you're going to start seeing that suddenly everyone is driving the car that you're interested in buying. Or if you're looking to rent a flat and you walk through the street, you're going to start noticing all of the signs where it says that that there's a house for rent. Why? Because your mind is filtering the information that it's important for it. So this is another example of how different people perceive differently the world. Depending on what your mind needs and your ego needs, that's how you're going to see reality. So the accuracy of your perception depends on your emotional maturity, your enlightenment, and the disattachment that you have from your ego. This means that the more identified you are to your ego, the less self-development you've done in getting to know yourself and your programming, chances are that you're going to be more biased and that your programming is actually really making a false perception of how reality really is. So if you're arguing with my partner or with my mother or whatever, I try to ask myself, okay, how is this person actually seeing reality? Is he or he seeing reality, the situation, different to me? I try to put myself in the point of view of the other person. Because as I said, as a piece of art, you may be interpreting this painting in a way, and I may be seeing it in another way. Everything according to the programming and the bias that you have been through. So this perception that we have, that we project into reality, is the best explanation to why we repeat patterns in life. Spotting patterns has been a game changer for me, because I came to a point when I was realizing, wow, this is the same situation I experienced years before, but in a different scenario with a different person. As we say in Spanish, it's the same dog with a different color. So why do we repeat patterns? Why do things keep happening? This comes from our subconscious. We may want to change our reality from a conscious perspective. I don't know, signing up to drama lessons, for example. But if deep-rooted in your subconscious, you have the belief that you are not worthy enough, the moment that you step on and try to interpret in front of a publicum, you're going to freeze, because internally in your subconscious, in your programming, you have believed that your self-worth is not good enough, so you're not going to perform properly in front of those people. Even though, as I said, reality is neutral. It's just a person in front of an audience. Perhaps for someone in the audience, you're doing great because this person has a lot of empathy, or this person believes that you were funny or you were lovely. Whereas other person that perhaps was raised being more strict or is an any type 1 is going to believe that you've done awfully. Everything comes down to the filter of our mind. So a highly significant distortion leads to the issues that you have in your life. This means, for example, whenever you have stress, anxiety, or any other problems, all of this also comes from the way you interpret reality. If you believe you have an awful boss, perhaps another colleague has the same boss, and your boss treats the other colleague the same way as he or she treats you. But for you, your boss may not be empathetic enough, or maybe really unfriendly. Whereas for your other colleague, perhaps he's just a really professional person that doesn't like to ask personal questions. It all comes down to how one person sees reality versus how the other person is projecting. So the funny thing is that the mind is blind to its own biases. And this can be translated to relationships, to business. You may be thinking that your partner is not romantic enough, where perhaps he thinks that he is. As I said, your mind automatically is projecting. And unless you step back and are like really, really aware of what is going on, you're going to keep thinking that reality is in a specific way, when it doesn't necessarily have to be according to what your mind is telling you it is. So what is required here is awareness about what is actually happening. The perception of your reality can be really, really inaccurate, to the point that you cannot see that the problems that are happening in your life are caused by this perception. So if you want to change your outside world, I would say that, first of all, start checking what is happening in your head. And I have actually experienced this myself, that many times we cannot change what is happening in the outer world. But if we do change how we perceive a situation, automatically the reality is going to completely change. And actually, it's much more effortless to try to change what is happening here, our thoughts and our point of view, than changing the material world. Because many times we confront situations that have nothing to do with us. It escapes to our power of will and our power of action. Like the best example of this is what happened in the concentration camps in like Auschwitz. Like one of the best books that I've ever read, The Man in Search of Meaning from Viktor Frankl, speaks about the importance of how you interpret reality. You may think that you're in hell, or you may try to give a sense to your reality. And by doing so, you may change the way you see reality. So the next time you have in front of you a situation, whether it's in a business field, relationship, or absolutely anything, even as I said, an object, even if you have a spoon, try to question yourself. Is this really how it is? Am I seeing things as it really is? Or am I seeing things distorted by the bias of my brain and my mind? And I understand that this can feel a little bit abstract in the beginning until you tackle, as I said, the concepts of what ego is, what the highest self is, all of the programming that we undergo, especially subconsciously from I would say until we are 7 years old. And if I am kind, I would say up to 14, depending on some cases. But everything you go through, especially in childhood, is setting you up to see the world in a specific way. That's why, for example, I was raised by parents who have traveled the world, and they have taught me that the world is a safe place. But is the world a safe place? Or have I been programmed to see it this way? Because a child that has been raised by a family that perhaps lost a family member in war, or I don't know, any other example you can think of, will for sure see reality in a much more different way than I see it. And in my personal development journey, this is something that I try to be really aware of. The fact that even in the darkest times and even in the best times, things are or may not be as I am seeing them. Things are as they are. And the good thing about this, and the bad thing at the same time, is that in any given moment, you can shape the reality, as I said, that you are living. You can decide, is this the reality I want to live in? What can I do to change it? And as I said many times, you cannot physically make any difference. But as long as you can change what you're seeing through your eyes, here in your head, automatically you're going to see things differently. And the same way around. When anyone says something to you, for example, you're not receiving this compliment as the person really is or as their words, but as you are filtering those things. So I am really looking forward to your questions now, to see if you have any point that was not clear, because I know that this is really abstract in the beginning. All of the concept can feel a little bit unclear, but as we are all here in this journey to learn, I guess that anything that I cannot answer, in between all of us, we can find the solutions. As I said, we're just here in this journey to find out. There's no instruction book.
Jannú, thank you very much for sharing your time and your knowledge with us. Of course, I'm learning a lot on this conference, and if you agree, and as if you said, we are starting to incorporate into our conversation some questions from the people watching us. Let's start with Carla Fernandez. She is writing from Spain, so I'm reading this question in Spanish, and after that I'm translating it to English. Carla Fernández desde España dice, ¿qué hacer cuando los pensamientos negativos invaden tu vida? Sufro de ansiedad y a veces ya no sé distinguir la realidad de la no realidad. In English now. What to do when negative thoughts invade your life? I suffer from anxiety and sometimes I cannot distinguish reality from non-reality.
That's a really, really good question, Carla, because it's actually something common to all of us. And whoever says that doesn't have pessimistic thoughts or sad thoughts, they would probably be lying, because, as I said, this is something that belongs to the human being. But at the same time, as I mentioned, you have the power to question things. You can always, always, always question and step into the driver's seat and ask yourself, is this actually accurate? Is this actually reality, or is this a product of my ego? So if you seem to be in a really, really dark place, I know this sounds like an easy solution, but it's not. I always turn to gratitude. As you can see, I even have it here tattooed on my wrist. Gracias, as we say in Spanish. Turn to gratitude, because just by writing down a simple list of the things that are actually working out in your life, it's going to give you perspective. I'm not saying that you're not going through some tough stuff. And the fact that other people have it worse than you doesn't mean that actually your problems are not problems to you. Why? Because this is how you see your reality. So make sure whenever these thoughts come to your mind, first of all, step back, sit into the driver's seat, ask yourself, is this really accurate, or is it a product of my programming, as I mentioned? And fourth, turn to gratitude. Focus on the things that are actually working, because as I mentioned before, your mind has a limited capacity of focus. So if you shift your attention to the things that are actually working, you're going to trick your mind to only see the things that are positive.
Thank you very much, Jannú. Let's continue with Cristina S. Cristina S. From YouTube. She says, Hola, Jannú. In psychology, Span-English. We've got a Span-English question. Hola, Jannú. In psychology, this concept is related to the idea of scheme and bias. There is a whole field called psychology of thought that is related to logic and the concept mentioned previously. Did you know all of this?
I do. And that's the thing that I was mentioning, that everything has to do at the end how you filter it. Like your thoughts actually impact your reality. Because as I said, reality is neutral. It is your thoughts, the lens through which you see the world. And why is it so important to have awareness of how your lens is? Because the lens of each person is going to be different. It's really important because your lens determines how you are going to react with the world, how you're going to react towards others, towards any situation, as I said, relationships, business, you name it. So the best example is if you have like a really strong perception of your self-worth, you're going to react differently to a situation where a shy person perhaps is going, I don't know, to step back and is not going to tackle an opportunity.
All right, let's continue, Jannú. Sorry, Jannú, I was translating a question. Caroline from the United States, she says, is yoga recommended for anyone? Being old and with all my limitations, could I practice yoga in any way?
Surely. I mean, I understand the fear when, as people age, first of all, whatever you see on social media, all of these super weird poses, handstands, headstand, forget it. That's not yoga. Yoga is everything which is done mindfully. Actually, I like to call it like active meditation. If you're washing the dishes and you're feeling the soap and the temperature of the water, that's yoga for me. But if you're speaking to the physical part, which is in yoga we call asanas, I understand that people who are aging can feel a little bit unsure about whether to start yoga or not, because as we age, our tendons get shortened, we start drying, we lose flexibility. So the best moment to start yoga is today, because even though you are fighting against time, time is running against you, you're always going to see physical benefits. So yes, and yes, because if you start yoga with a qualified instruction, the instructor is going to be able to give you modified poses. There are so many different types of yoga. So please start. If you have the chance of joining a studio, or if the studios in the States are closed and you're able to do it online, please do so. Try with different teachers, because perhaps you're not going to connect with one, but the second teacher that you try is going to resonate with you. So try different types of yoga. Don't label, don't question. I hated my first yoga practice, and in the end, I became a yoga teacher myself. So go with an open mind and try to see this as a present to yourself, because trying new things is always going to expand yourself and your awareness. It's a present.
Cristina S. from Spain did another question. Patterns are quite interesting. Do you think it's related to karma and past lives too?
Yes. Yes. I know this is like a little bit woo-woo topic, but actually I do believe in karmic reincarnation, and I believe that whatever topics are not solved in this life, they're going to be pending tasks for the next life. So it is your duty to spot patterns. It is your duty to try to heal them. And I know this is also something that a concept that may be difficult to grasp, but we do carry also patterns that repeat in our family. So the best tip that I can give you, pay close attention to your grandmother, to your mother, also to your father or your grandfather, but usually it comes with the same gender. See if you are repeating, for example, if your granny was in a toxic relationship, your mother too, see how you are behaving with men, because we do repeat patterns. And if you are here in this channel today listening to us, I want to congratulate you because you're already in the right path. I think it's really sad when you come to this world and you don't have the awareness to see these things, because you just transit this life and you're going to go into the next one with pending tasks, as I said. But if you work on yourself and your self-development, you're going to bring your attention, or as I say, your awareness into things that need to be solved, because it's not a coincidence that things keep repeating. This is just life telling you, hey, her name was Christina, right? Like, hey, Christina, this is something that you got to learn. Because if you don't learn it now, you're going to be presented with the same situation in the future. And each time, I speak for personal experience, it's going to be harder and harder to learn the lesson.
Thank you, Jannú, and thank you, Christina, of course, for all your questions. Let's continue with another Spanish question from José Martínez. He says, in Spanish first, ¿crees que cambiando el enfoque de nuestra percepción es más fácil empatizar con las personas que nos tratan mal? Do you think that by changing the focus of our perception, it is going to be easier to empathize with people who treat us badly?
This is such a good question, because the moment I realized because I've gone through many personal experiences where partners have treated me badly, or a boss has spoken in bad terms to me. So when you realize that how people are speaking to you actually has nothing to do with you, but it has to do with how they are feeling from the place where they are, and that's been a projection, it's like you can really release. It's like releasing a burden, because I am an empath. So I used to think, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? What have I done to make my boss angry today? But what you don't know is that this person has his or her own circumstances, and they're bringing them with themselves. They carry them all throughout the day. So how they treat you has a lot to do with how they're feeling. I can bet my left foot that if someone is at peace with themselves, they're not going to go around speaking in bad terms to other people. Why? Because they're in peace, they're doing okay. But when you are frustrated, when you have problems, when you have rage and you don't know how to deal with it, it's when you project that onto other people. So yes, the answer is yes. Like whenever someone has a negative energy, try to think, okay, this has nothing to do with me. This has to do with this person, and try to understand why this person is acting the way they're acting. That's why I know that this is an unpopular opinion, but as a lawyer, because I also studied law, I do understand sometimes when a killer killed someone, or whenever there is a war, I understand the position of some people. Why? Because I understand that they're acting according to their programming. Even the people that sell weapons in a war, you could think, oh, these people are profiting they're making money out of the sufferment of all the people. Yeah, but these people have been programmed in a specific way, and you have the awareness to see it. So instead of judging them, you are able of seeing that people act according to how they have been biased.
This was a very interesting question, and you gave us also a very interesting answer, Jannú. Thank you very much. Let's continue with Pablo Urbano from Argentina. He says, how to practice concentration. Although I practice, I don't like to meditate because I am distracted and my head is always at a dicing speed. And this is a very typical question, Jannú, how to get concentrated.
It's really difficult, I understand. And this is the reason why I found out. We don't like to sit in silence because we face our demons. We like to be on the run the whole day. Since the moment we wake up and we check social media, till the moment we jump to the shower and we have music in the background, or we are listening to a podcast as we're exercising, we like to distract ourselves, because the moment that we sit down in silence is the moment that you touch with pain. We try the same way as you have a ball underneath the water and you're pushing it. We keep doing things to push that bottle underneath the water all throughout the day. So the moment that you say, okay, I'm going to meditate and sit down in silence, you're probably going to face things that are uncomfortable. That's why don't judge yourself. Forget all the programming you have received about you have to meditate 15 minutes, 3, 2, 1. The sole fact that you sit down and you prove yourself that you are brave enough to be there with full awareness. I don't mind if it's 1 minute. I don't mind if it's 2. I care that you sit down and you prove yourself that you can do it. You're going to win. And this is what you have to understand, that the same way you go to the gym and you lift a barbell to train your bicep, you need to train your mind. Because if you don't train your mind, you're going to be the slave of your mind, and your mind is going to be running on autopilot. So you have to train yourself to sit down and speak out loud if you need to, because the mind is going to tell you, I don't want to sit down. You're going to start scratching yourself. I have to answer an email. And you're going to answer, no, we're going to sit 10 more seconds, because this way you're telling who is the boss and who is in charge. This is how you train the mind. And through meditation, you're training your mind to, it's a practice to focus. Your mind is like a CPU, like a computer. You have many open tabs. But if you train yourself every day to just sit down and answer to yourself, no, we're going to stay 10 more seconds. We will answer those emails, but when I say so, little by little, you're going to gain, you're going to win one match, another match. So it's a practice. You have to build it, and you have to know that you're able to do it.
Jannú, we are finishing with Julian Perez. He's writing from Cuba, and he says, do you think that it is important to add all this teaching in schools? These things are more difficult to implement in our lives when we are older.
Definitely. This would be a game changer if you could teach kids about emotional intelligence, about awareness. If you could teach kids, hey kids, you're being programmed right now. What we're teaching you in school is a programming. And the programming that you're receiving here in Spain is probably not the same programming that someone is receiving in Kenya. So whenever you meet someone in Kenya and you think that you're really different to this person, you're not, because you're seeing the world in a different way as the other person is seeing it. We would be much more, we'd be a better race. Human race would be so much better. But the fun fact is that if this platform exists and people like you are connected here tonight sharing experiences and thoughts, it means that there is hope. And we just have to keep spreading the knowledge and educating those that are open for it, because this is also very important. You can bring the horse to the river, but you cannot force the horse to drink. So those who are interested in learning, always be open to help.
Jannú, thank you very much one more time. And now let me tell you about the people that has been with us today, because they join us from different countries, like for example Spain, the United States, Australia, Argentina, the United Kingdom, Italy, or Cuba. And of course, I'm giving you a few seconds to say goodbye or for sharing your final thoughts if you want.
I just want to say thank you guys, because it has been a gift to share my time and humble knowledge with you tonight. And it gives me, as I said, a lot of hope that there's people outside interested in improving themselves, because I believe that the world changes with your example, not with your opinion. So if instead of pursuing to change the world outside, we concentrate our energies on improving ourselves and offering our best version to the world, I'm really, really sure that at the end, one by one, little by little, we're going to make an impact. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much one more time, Jannú. It has been a real pleasure having you here. I'm so glad to having spent those minutes with you. And of course, I'm inviting you to participate one more time in a conference with us whenever you want. And to you, dear friends of Mindalia, I just want to remind you that you can enjoy all our content in Mindalia Radio, 24 hours of conscious content. And you can find all of this in our website www.mindaliaradio.com. Before saying goodbye, I also want you to know that Mindalia is a non-profit organization, and you can collaborate with us by liking our content, leaving us a positive comment, and of course by subscribing to our platforms or different channels and sharing this video with someone else. You can also donate through a link you will find in our website www.mindalia.com. And by doing so, of course, you help us to keep creating more content like the one you enjoyed with us tonight or today. It depends on the part of the world you are. So having said that and feeling really, really grateful, I am ready to say goodbye, but just for now, until a next Mindalia live streaming. Thank you very much.